We're hot.
We're hot.
Rolling.
Yeah. Yep.
Rolling.
We're gonna be very hot here in a minute.
All right. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Chris, how you doing, man?
Burger King now?
Brother? Yeah.
Hey, Doug.
Hey, how you doing?
Mark Grine.
Mark.
Yeah.
Mark
How you doing,
Grine.
buddy?
How you doing, brother?
Good.
How are you?
What have you guys been up to since I seen you back?
Yeah, we're waiting to shoot today. We're excited, man.
All right, cool. We'll have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really, this is the key element of today, right here, is these two shoes right here. So,
So is that?
yes. We got all sorts of crap here if you just want to pull around out and we'll... What's your name, sir?
Jay.
Jay, you look like Frank Zappa.
Thanks, man. Nice to meet you.
I love Frank Zappa. Let me haul this stuff in here.
So, just to get things rolling here, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, a little bit about your childhood, growing up, that kind of stuff.
Basic information.
Yes. How old are you?
My name is Doug Johns. I've never been in prison. No. Actually, I have been. No. My name is Doug Johns. I hail from Elyria, Ohio. And I'm currently living in Berlin Heights, Ohio now. And I am 48 years old, born in February '65. And I love playing the bass.
Tell us about one of your early musical experiences. Was it whether it was something instrumental or listening to music, just an early musical experience from your childhood?
Well, I do remember. I distinctly remember. I in the house there was a lot of Ray Charles, Thelonious Monk, like some jazz and soul. What's that cat? Perry Como, Frank Sinatra. Some big band stuff. I was really lucky. My mother really listens to good music. So that's my earliest, musical experience I can remember. And the first instrument I was exposed to was the drums. And I still play the drums today. I wish I was a drummer. I'm a closet drummer, But I think all bass players should have a handle on the drums or be able to get behind the drums. 99% of the time, I mean, from a bass player standpoint, you're standing next to the drummer. And you need to know where he's coming from. You know, he's not just there to provide you with something to play. You know, you need to get in their shoes. You know, the drums and the pulse and the rhythm it's the whole deal. The rhythm of it. I almost guarantee any song you really dig into that you love or is a popular tune, the rhythm is what gets you. You know, it's what gets you moving.
So you started on drums.
Right.
Where did bass come into the picture then?
Like most young kids, you know, the band required a bass player. Everyone wanted to play guitar or drums. Them were the cool instruments, you know. And at that time, I remember I was playing in a band with my brother, and we needed a bass player. So, you know, we found a bass. I think it was a Sears bass. I don't know if anyone remembers the global basses that you could order in the Sears catalog. I believe that was one of my first basses. And, you know, I was just doing the bass chair out of necessity. You know, we needed a bass player. And I fell in love with it. You know, I've always loved the bass. You know, I love playing the instrument. There's something about the feel of this instrument that just connects with me, you know, spiritually. And the rhythm thing, you know, we were talking about earlier, I love playing drums. You know, that was probably my first love instrument. I'm going to be a drummer. This is the next best thing, you know. Well, no, it's kind of the same in a way. You know, you're still hitting on something, you know. It's a percussive instrument.
I noticed your bass is very worn.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
This bass right here is a 1986 Padula Buzz bass. And I know what everyone's going to say, well, there's frets in it. The Buzz bass is Mike Padula's fretless model. I got this back in 1986, and at the time it was a fretless, and I was on the road with a funk band at the time, and they says, hey, we love your playing, but if you want to keep this gig, you better get some frets in there. You know, I was maybe going through my Jocko phase back then or something like that. Not to say that you couldn't play funk with a fretless, but you can. But yes, it's an older bass. It's an 86. It really doesn't have no new mods. It's kind of the way Mike Padula made it, intended it to be back in the time. The only difference is I put an on-off switch in it. So, but yes, this bass, it's like an old shoe. You know, it's like a well-worn shoe. You can just talk on it, like kind of like what you were talking about your guitar. You got that one you'll always remember, and sometimes it's the one you wish you wouldn't have got rid of, you know. But yeah, I can just pick it up, and it feels like a pair of shoes I can just go running in, you know, and hiking in. It's worn in well. That's not to say I'm not going to be getting a new Padula here soon, because, you know, it's getting to the point where it's getting a little whooped up, you know. Maybe it's time to take out a new one. But yeah, this bass right here, I love this bass, and I love Mike Padula for making it. He's a great friend, and you know what? I'll play this thing till I die.
So why do you play bass now?
Man, it sounds so corny and short, but I really love the instrument, you know. And I can talk on this instrument. I guess I've put in enough time now that I can talk. This is the one I can talk on. I can get on a piano and you'd be like, ooh, you know, well, I haven't put the time into that. And I don't talk on that, but I talk on the bass. And now it's a need. It's not just a thing. I need to play this thing. And I need to play it every day, too. It's my way of expressing myself in many ways, you know. There's things I wouldn't say to somebody, but I could say through music. And that's the nuts and bolts of it. I need to play. how would I define the Doug John sound? Well, I mean, my records are really, they're the full enchilada. You know, there's a lot of music on there. Big section, you know, horn stuff I love, Hammond, keys, you know, whatever. But it's 2013, and it's tough to take that whole unit on the road because it's some serious coin. So the duo kind of, it was born out of that. You know, it's cheap. It's 2 plane tickets. It's 2 hotel rooms, sometimes 1 hotel room, sometimes no hotel rooms. But that's where it came about. And I think if you have a great song, it should sound just as good with a guy just playing just by himself as opposed to the whole ensemble, if it's a great composition. And that's how the whole duo thing kind of came about.
My name is Jordan JSimms Simmons. I've been playing with Doug now for 3 years. Doug's style is, to explain it, I probably would say that it's very, very percussive, very, very much like a drummer with strings. It's an easy way to pretty much explain that. Playing with Doug is great, man. I get to travel the world. Man, it's great. Just outside of just playing, you know, he's just a great guy, and of course, you know, we like to eat and joke, and we like the same things: cars, sports, and outdoors. So, you know, it's been a great experience, man. I love playing with him, man. I do.
Let me get into your stage performance a little bit. And you are touring quite a bit as a duo, drums and bass.
Yes.
So drummers and bassists aren't typical frontmen. What's it like having to kind of carry the stage with just 2 people up there?
That's true. The drummers and bass players usually ain't the typical.
They're the background boys.
That's right. That's right. It's, well, I'll tell you what. It's entertainment, Chris. You got to learn to entertain. And I'm a work in progress. You know, I'm used to being back there just grooving with the drummer and not caring about nothing else. But remembering that this is entertainment at its core. And you got to step up, and it's just about really getting to the point where you're so relaxed, you're just, no matter where you're playing, this is your family in front of you, you're just having fun, you know. Yeah. You got to learn to entertain. You know, forget about all the chord and the crazy chord and the playing and the stuff like that. Just groove me, make me move, you know. Make me want to hang out the whole night and have some drinks. Well, you don't have to have some drinks, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah, entertainment.
Yeah, I mean,
and I'm having fun with it. Just bass and drums. I mean, sometimes we go up there and people are like, "Oh, just bass and drums. Where's the rest?"
Yeah.
So you're kind of you really got to bring a lot of elements. Like we bring some samples that he can hit, so we have some spontaneous samples of horn hits or what have you, organ, and that kind of makes us sound a little larger than we are.
Yeah, it's the you have a drum trigger set up.
Yep.
And that
Yep.
you mentioned as you were unpacking, this is the third member of our band.
Yeah.
How does that gear play into your show specifically?
It's a great question
Go into that
because,
a little
the popular belief is that, or not belief, but the popular thing these days is you're just playing to a track. We do that in a couple instances, but we try to keep it in the spirit of jazz with improvisation. We try to make that pad so he's improvising with it. Like our horn hits and stuff, you could vary the tempo a little bit. We try not to get too rhythmic with those hits on that sample pad for that reason, so it doesn't force us to go in a certain direction. But it's just an addition. It's another toy. It's just an electronic, and he works for cheap. I stick him in a box, and when I don't want to use him, the one thing we always set out on with this when we were doing duo stuff, working with electronics, is to not rely on them.
Right.
I use loopers, there's effects, there's the sample pad, but you still should be able to go out there and entertain if all that stuff broke down 5 minutes before you went on stage.
Yeah.
And when you keep that mindset, I think you'll entertain. You can focus on entertaining.
Keeping it live, keeping it flexible.
That's right.
You don't want to be pinned to
right.
a click track.
Yep.
Right?
And I've done click track gigs, and
Sure.
that's kind of there's nothing wrong with that. That's the norm these days. There's a lot of that, but I prefer to do it raw, where every take is just however the loop goes is however the loop goes.
Right.
And sometimes, you make some boo-boos up there.
So if you make a boo-boo in your initial loop, then you just live with that boo-boo as
Yeah.
it loops over and over, right?
It depends on how quick I can cancel it and do it over. And sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes, God bless Jordan Simmons, when he plays the drums, because sometimes he'll deal with some of my loops that ain't too hot,
Right.
Like I might have just missed coming in and getting out a little bit, but that's the name of the game,
Sure.
I'd rather play by that rules just the moment than know exactly every time that it's the same.
So how is that, what are some of the advantages of just having two people up there just from a...
Right. There's this freedom. There's a sense of freedom that I don't think I could say I've normally had with big bands, Well, I don't know. I might take that back. If you get the right big band, you feel. But yeah, it's you're always creating something. But there's a fine line there. You could quickly tip over into that self-serving ego note fest.
Right.
Bad, very bad.
Right.
We want to be musical.
Yeah.
If there's anything I could stress beyond when we talked about rhythm, is being musical. You got to be musical, and that's what's gonna, with two people. I won't say you have to be extra musical. It's got to count, because it's just them two elements.
Right. So when you set up, do you set up side by side?
Yeah, I prefer the hi-hat side, but as I'm getting older, I'm realizing I'm trying to break some of my insecurities, and that's one of them, is being tucked right up against that hi-hat like I'm in the drum set.
Yeah.
It's not necessary,
Right.
But there's, we just set up next to each other and go, and it's easy peasy, on the stage, off, It's really easy.
Not a lot of moving stuff.
No.
Not a lot of...
No.
Well, I think that one of the big advantages is just scheduling.
Yeah?
Rehearsals and
Oh, yeah.
gigs.
I
Like,
never
are you
thought of
free?
that.
I'm
That's
free.
true.
Are you free?
That's true. You try pulling a 10-piece band together, it's like the planets need to align or something,
Yeah.
And I love that, and when budgets allow, I'll take out that kind of group. But right now, the duo is where it's at for me, because it's, we can keep to our voice, we can let our voice be heard, and it's just so easy to travel, just two guys.
Right.
Of course,
Yeah.
Jordan, he doubles as the merch guy, and
Sure.
hauling this and stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, that's the way
there's more chores to it than just getting up there and playing, But
Yeah.
yeah, getting up there and being musical, having fun with it, is so important. One thing I found with songwriting over the years, you gotta let it stew. You gotta let it simmer. There's tunes I've tried to bring to tape or to the public that weren't ready yet, and they're better now, And there's some that, I've put too much sauce on, You just gotta let it be, what it is, so that you hear my heart, so you hear my spirit. That's really what we're trying to do, and that's a brave notion, It's like a comedian, You're getting up there and getting naked in front of these people, Like from a composition standpoint, the tune "Speak in Tongues" was just I reversed a bunch of chords. I was playing around with inverting chords, and all these chords. How's it? I forgot it. Okay, there's. No, that ain't it. You know what it is? I can't see. This is what happens right here. That's it. That was it right there, though. That chord. So you hear that rhythm underneath there? If we kind of muted it up, let's see if I can get this in front. Nope. So that rhythm is what drove it, and them could be any notes under there, but that's a good example of where the rhythm just kind of drove that whole creation. And if we let it be and just let it be that way, I remember when I was writing that kind of groove there, it just kind of popped into me. I ran down and my wife shot it with an iPhone, so I wouldn't, make sure not to forget it,
I noticed your foot was tapping.
Yes.
Is that an intentional thing?
I pretty much can't even play without that foot going, It's crucial. Yeah, that's my pulse. Back to rhythm again. This whole thing is kind of focusing on rhythm. To me, I'll always get that foot going like this. Different versions, and try to. I guess it's kind of like the hand clap, or it's kind of the kick and the snare. And I'll always get it going. It's funny too because I've seen myself playing. Sometimes I look up and I'm all skating around like I can dance. It's kind of that James Brown thing. But it's so important to have that inner pulse while you're playing. You have to have that. And it's not just because I'm playing with the drummer. I would do it, if I'm just playing by myself. I would have my foot tapping in some way or, moving something on your body. That's really important. I stress that to a lot of cats these days to, get that pulse moving inside you. Feel it, that inner pulse. And I just happen to use the foot. It doesn't have to be the foot, but have some sort of movement that it helps that rhythm,
So you have a couple CDs out.
Yes.
When did you release your first CD, and what type of music was on it?
I think I released my first CD, my first solo CD, in 2006, was it? Yeah, 2006. I put out 4 CDs. I'm actually working on a 5th CD right now. I'm kind of Zappa-esque in that I would record 24 hours a day if I could, but sometimes it's good to get away from it. So yes, I love to record, and I got a lot to say. And what's funny is a lot of the stuff I'm recording now is just stuff that I created years ago, and I'm finally gotten to the point where I know how to get it on tape, quote unquote. But yeah, the first CD was really a lot of just us jamming. It was guys that for years I would do session work, and there'd be leftover time, and they'd just kind of let us roll. And these were at a lot of different studios. Some was my studio, some was in my kitchen. Literally, I recorded a lot of sessions in my kitchen at the time, and different studios around the Cleveland area. Well, not even just Cleveland, wherever we were. And a lot of that was just we took the good takes. You know, some of them were jams. Some of them we posted the horns. We brought them in later. Some of them it was already established and it wasn't the best mix, but the groove was there, which is really all that matters, and the feel. And that's kind of, if I summed up that first CD, that's what it was. It was like I was just jumping in head first, you know, with my arms behind my back. And there's something to be said for that, because I've had people comment that they really like that rawness of that first record. And as we produce and make more records, we think we know more, and sometimes we get away from that, you know. So the first CD was very raw, if I can put it in one word. It's really raw. You can listen in closely on that, and there's a lot of little bumps and bruises and people talking or frying chicken in the background, you know. And I'm serious. I mean, that's, you know, but it's real, you know, and that's what you want to get on tape, is feel, the real feel.
Now, tell me a little, though. You mentioned that you are a fabricator.
Yes.
And I've read on your website that you build chassis for race cars.
Yeah.
And then you do like body work and that kind of stuff?
No, I don't really do body work. The extent I would do is hanging bodies on the stuff I get into is drag cars and NASCAR. I subcontract, and I build the chassis. I'm sure you've seen it around the driver, all the tubes.
Yeah.
And there's a spec we have to adhere to, and it's just something my dad had me doing when I was real young, and I've just always done it my whole life. And it works hand in hand with playing music and traveling and coming home and working on them, you know.
Yeah. So the schedules are both, they fit together nice, right?
Yeah, they do. Like, basically, Doug's schedule is race cars in the front of the week and music in the end of the week, you know, every week, you know. And sometimes it's all music that week, and sometimes it's all cars that week, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I love it, you know. I love it's art. You know, you're creating with metal and trying to build a better mousetrap, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, a lot of musicians are the accountant by day.
Yeah.
And then the musician by night. And then the accountant, the legit job, is what funds their musical hobby. But somehow you've managed to make a job out of two art forms.
Yeah.
You know? So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it just kind of turned out that way. I say it's cars and guitars, you know. That's my whole deal is.
Yeah.
And, you know, I love cars. I always have. It's just something, you know, there's nothing like horsepower, you know. I just actually recently sold my race car, and I'm going to be building another one here soon, you know.
Okay.
And again, that's just like that I've now moved on to a new area or a new thinking of building a better mousetrap, you know.
Right.
Or creating another sound, or should I say car, you know. It's the same thing.
Well, here's a tough question then. Is creating a musical composition on bass anything like, in your mind, creating with metal? Is it the same?
Yes, it is.
Same kind of deal?
Yep. You know, I kind of fail miserably when I try to describe this, but it truly is kind of the same thing, you know. I mean, you're reaching into, you know, you're using your experience to build or write something better. I hate to use the word better, but, you know, you're going to another level. You're always trying to strive. Moving forward, yeah. And yes, they're very much the same. Music and cars, they just go together. You just got to keep your fingers out of the band saws and the mills, you know. That's the tough part. It can be
dangerous.
Yeah, and once in a while you get bit, you know, if you're thinking about music or something, you know.
Right.
But yeah, pretty much exclusively in my shop we just play Frank Zappa, you know. That's the only background music for me, you know.
Wow.
In the shop.
Interesting choice.
Yeah.
What advice would you have? Let's say I'm 16 years old and I'm, playing bass every day. How can I where do I go from there? So I'm already putting in the time.
Right.
I'm learning everything I can about the instrument. I'm developing my ear, and I even have a little group together. Where do you go from there? If you feel like you can't do anything else, if you feel like this is it, you got to go into music. Anything else just seems like a terrible idea. Where do you go? What would you suggest?
That's a tough question. The old man, get off my lawn, old man answer is, you've got to get to work on it. There is no shortcuts. That's it. There's no shortcuts, You licks, throw that term out, it's about being musical. There it is. That's what I'm getting at. See, it took me that little thing there to get to that, is to be musical. As far as making a career choice out of it, it's a hard road. It's very hard, You're going uphill, and people are throwing stuff at you all the time. But you'll develop a thick skin, So yeah, and doing it for the rest of your life thing, that's up to the individual, I was lucky. I was raised with great values, and that's where it all stems from. And you got to have a hard work ethic. You can never stop. But you have to put time into the instrument. There's no shortcut to that. You've heard like Malcolm's 10,000 hours thing. That's way too small. It's a life choice. And when you do that, when you continually work with it and love it, it's a love-respect thing. It really, you got to respect it, and that creates a love. And with that love, you respect it. It's that Cartesian thing. It happens. And through that time, that long time that you put into it, you start to talk on it. And I think to really get down to the brass tacks, when you're asking, when did you know, is when you could start thinking and you hear it. What is it? You see it, you think it, you hear it, and then you play it. Play it is the last thing.
The business side of the music, how does that play in?
That's an oxymoron,
Is it? Yeah, because I've never been able to figure it out. I'm very bad about asking for money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, did we make any money? No, that's okay. We had fun. But it's like, what? Do you need certain accounting skills to make this work? I mean, this is your career we're talking about.
That's right. And you do. You have to step up. You gotta, something as simple as constructing and spelling an email correctly. This is extremely important.
Right.
Having a websiting, knowing how to put it together and maintain it. Knowing how to be involved in production of things, such as this right here. You have to wear a lot of hats. Yes, you do. You have to be sharp on a lot of things. And where you're not sharp, reach out to people that are. And you have to learn to do that. And yes, you mentioned that money thing. Yeah. How do you ask this guy for $1 million for your epic record, You got to learn to do that, Networking, you got to learn to network. It's not going to come to you. You have to get out there and learn all these skills. When you were asking earlier about, doing music for the rest of your life and do it for a living, man, you got to learn a lot of stuff,
Yeah, but what you're saying is would not only apply to music, but it's like you got to be able to have professional relationships.
Yes.
And that's really true of any job.
That's
right?
true. That's true. This kind of brings up the subject a little bit of endorsements, with different companies. I work with a lot of different companies who support me and I support them. But this is a great relationship. I have to feed them. They feed me. This is how it works. We help each other out. And you've got to learn how to carry yourself out there in the world, You're an entertainer, You're up there on the stage. So you got to have your shit together, right.
You ever feel like hanging it up? You ever feel like quitting and becoming an accountant?
Absolutely not.
Dental hygienist?
No. I would never. I need this. I need to play. It's like part of my. I don't know. It's part of my DNA, I guess you could say. You know, every day I need to play something. You know, it's a great outlet. You know, spiritually, and we talked about that earlier. How you can say things through this that you probably couldn't normally say just face to face like this. You know, and I couldn't even think about quitting. No way.
All right, let's see here. I like this question.
Check testing.
Oh, it's gonna drive me nuts.
Well, when you think of that, while we're on camera, you know, and come up with that later, we'd appreciate if you could, you know, come up with that.
No.
Playing with Doug is very, very. Don't look at the camera.
Hey, can you hear me okay in there?
No.
Okay.
I know, but sometimes I can be off, you know. I don't want to stare at you. So that's kind of cool. There were some turds in there.
We'll use that as what we call B-roll footage over the top. Where it
Say
shows
that again, Mark.
B-roll.
Describe B-roll.
Define
Because we've been
B-roll.
going at it about
Define
B-roll.
B-roll.
He's been using it in every other sentence, and I finally said, I swear
You know
to
what,
you, when
yeah,
you say
yeah.
B-roll one more time, I'm not part of this
You
anymore.
picked that up the last time we met.
Is
I
that
remember
what it
that.
is?
Yeah.
Buzzword. It's
Yeah.
the buzzword.
Oh,
Okay.
that word makes my
B-roll.
All right.
skin crawl.
You know what time it is? It's time for a pee break and a smoke break. That's great. Thank you. It's like the audition in LA or something. Next.